District of Lee County will search your kid's phone if there's a question about safety and security. That rule is spelled out in the Student Code of Conduct. Thanks for sticking with us. I'm Nicole Gabe.
And I'm Lois Tomey in for Russ McCaskey. What's not clear is how deep the district and local law enforcement can go into the phone, and more importantly, what they can do with data that they find. Data you and your kids may not have known was there. Wink investigative reporter Celine MacArthur shows us how the phone's cache can be used to convict you of a crime.
Many of you have a lot of cash in your pocket and you don't even know it. We're not talking about your money. We're talking about content stored deep in your smartphone. Cybersecurity experts say the cache collects snippets of data from different websites and apps on your phone. Anything that loads onto a page, even if you scroll right by it. Now that allows websites and apps to load faster, but that information can still be used to judge you. That's what happened to Lee County 5th grader Daniel Marquez. We're sharing this story to help you better protect your kids.
The court finds beyond a reasonable doubt that the youth did make a threat to conduct a mass shooting.
A confusing and devastating verdict for 11-year-old Daniel Marquez and his family.
Again, I'm not an attorney, I don't understand the law. It just showed how much I don't know the law.
When Daniel was 10 and a 5th grader at Patriot Elementary School, he sent a friend private texts he described under oath as a joke about a scam involving money and guns, followed by a reference to a school event.
So the punchline of your joke was it that the firearms, that was the punchline?
No, it was that I scammed someone.
Okay, so but what made the firearm, what made it funny?
That it was expensive because I scammed my friend for a lot of money.
Prosecutor Scott Miller argued Daniel's texts were really a threat inspired by the mass school shooting in Uvalde, and the texts alone were enough to convict. Fast forward 400 days. Miller presents something new. Images from news coverage of Uvalde and Parkland, he says, were found in the cache on Daniel's phone. But are these cached images of violent school shootings the smoking gun?
It absolutely goes to his state of mind because these images were on his phone.
Cached images. The sheriff's office digital forensic expert admitted she couldn't determine if Daniel ever saw.
So that just means they were at some point on the phone, but not necessarily kept by Ms. Marquez. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know if can these come up from news alerts on apps, or do they have to be individually accessed by the defendant?
No, they can come up from almost anything. These specifically, I believe, were YouTube and Google, just Google. I don't want to say Google searches, but just a Google page.
I'm shocked that any of this so-called evidence that was presented would lead anyone to believe that beyond a reasonable doubt, that's the judge's words, this kid was guilty. Because there's no hard evidence of any of that.
Cybersecurity expert Craig Peterson isn't involved in the case, but watched the trial, evaluated the evidence, and arrived at an alarming conclusion. He wonders whether the prosecutor and judge understood the technology they were presenting and evaluating.
The only way you can actually judge whether something happened is if you have all of the information, and not only have the information, but understand the information.
Uvalde and Parkland were major local and national news headlines when Daniel's phone was confiscated by LCSO, which Peterson says explains why the images would be featured on Google and YouTube and cached on Daniel's phone. With a little detective work, he believes law enforcement would have found those images on your kid's phone, too.
Why didn't they go in there and see, well, how many kids were interested in knowing about the shooting that happened 3 days prior to this, right? How many of these other kids would have the exact same types of things on their phones? I would guess that it's close to 100%.
John Bengert is a data security strategist in Fort Myers, 20 years in intelligence with the United States Air Force, 7 at NSA, where he earned the National Scientific Achievement Award for technological innovations in data security. Bengert says judges need greater technological literacy to decide what is valid evidence and admissible.
Our legal system, we depend on jurors or judges or attorneys who aren't technically savvy. And so if you tell someone, a layman, those things, you may say, oh my gosh, 100% then he did it or she did it. But if you tell a technical person like me that, I'm going to go, well, wait a minute. You know, how was that gathered? How did they grab the information?
A question that remains unclear in Daniel's case, but Benkert says Daniel's story should inspire serious conversations with your kids about what they do on their phones, especially since you don't have easy access to their cache.
You know, you can't go into my cache, I can't go into your cache without tools and forensic tools and spending a lot of money.
But the school district has the resources and authority to do so.
My field is not into investigating phones and how they get into a phone or a computer. That's why we have the experts that we rely on to do that.
Executive Director of Safety, Security, and Emergency Management, David Newland, warns Lee Schools has a strict code of conduct. It says in part, display of weapons or inappropriate messages, pictures, or images on one's cellular phone or electronic device that cause a disruption to the safe operation of school lead to this: a consult with law enforcement. We know Daniel got more than a consult. The code is vague, offering the district and local law enforcement considerable discretion in deciding if your kids get in trouble. Benkert also cautions the cache in anyone's phone can be compromised.
You can give me your computer and I can make an exact duplicate of it. And I can then change dates on files, which people don't know that you can do. And there's no way for you or any forensic investigator to ever detect that. I can send you something that you don't even have to click on that then, you know, downloads a little file onto your phone.
The cybersecurity experts say the best way to protect your kids, and I know this is going to cause some heated debate, is to not give them their own phones with unrestricted access to texting, social media, and the internet. Now, I reached out to the state attorney's office and Lee County Sheriff's Office for comment. The state attorney's office won't comment. LCSO didn't respond. Now, if you want to be part of this conversation, email me at the address at the bottom of your screen or use the link at the bottom of this story right now on winknews.com. Back to you.